we're back. We're back. There's weather happening outside, and actually my Wi-Fi was down earlier today, so I'm not terribly surprised. Hopefully we're back live and everything's going smoothly now. OBS seems to think we are, so sorry about that. My apologies. Okay. Yeah. It looks like we're back up and going. Looks like we're back up and running. So I'm just gonna keep on powering forward here. Yeah, no, I'm not super surprised. There's a lot of weather happening around here today. That volatile type of weather where 1 minute it's like kind of sunny and then the next minute it's like really dark, and so we're getting a lot of wind and rain and everything today. Just one of them fall days. And I know my Wi-Fi was having issues this morning, so I don't know. Hopefully that's the last hiccup we have. But where was I? Okay. Anyway, players are trying to guess, have them roll 3d10 and use those numbers. Otherwise, if they want to pick the locks or listen closely for the tumblers, we'll say closely for the tumblers to be in place. We'll say DC 12 to break in. If they want to smash it, AC, we'll say AC 16 because it's just made of stone. It's like a big stone box. So AC 16 to hit has, and we're gonna go ahead. Yeah, they'll have to like really work at it. Let's say it has 50. Well, that might be a little much. You know what? Screw it. It's not hitting him back. We'll put as much in there as we want to. Has 50 HP. Boom. There we go. Okay. There. That's their puzzle. That's what they get. All right. Let's see here. Underline key 1. Let's see here. Inside the box, let's do this. Inside the box are 3 keys that all appear to be 100% identical. And we're going to put a DM note here. They are really identical. Multiple copies of the same key. But let players fuss over it because you know they'll think the 3 keys are for more than flavor. So you know they will. You know they will. You absolutely know 100% that players are going to be like, oh, there's 3 keys. I have to be important here, no matter how much you say. They could get a natural 20 with a plus 500 bonus on their perception check, right, or their investigation check to look at the keys. Like, they could get that solid thing, and you say, yeah, they're the same key. They're all the exact same key. And they'll still be like, oh, no, about that. And they'll totally take all 3 of them and be really annoyed when they don't all do different things. So just let them suffer. Sounds horrible, but yeah, just let them suffer. Okay, so this key is the first of many that will be found in this dungeon. Boom, there we go. Alright, let's see here. This key is the first of many that will be found in this dungeon. It grants access to rooms 6 through 10 in this section, as well as granting access to section 2 of this dungeon. Boom. Simple as that. Simple as that. Don't need a whole lot more for that. So let's go ahead and add our, let's see here. So we need to add a statue here. There's going to be, we already got the lights here. And so let's go look at our statues here. Now, just to see, are any of them holding an object? We might as well look at them and see. if there are any of them that are like serving the purpose that I was already trying to do. Nope, they're not. Okay, so that's fine. You just put like a gargoyle sitting here. We'll have him hunched over as if he's holding the box. Boom, just like that. Just like that, simple as that. Okay, easy. Easy, easy peasy. Alright, let's see. Just want to check and make sure. Okay, yeah, looks like the stream is going smoothly. Alright, well, there we are. Okay, so that does that one. Let's go on to our next stream here. Another easy battle. Okay, I kind of want this one to be, well, let's see. Let's just get ourselves started here and see what we can find. Easy battle. This one will have 150 experience points, so that's what our easy battles are worth here. Could do a shadow and a gray ooze. Could do that. Let's do that. Easy battle. 150 XP. 1x shadow. Those are worth 100 XP. I forgot to do that for the. And then 1x reduced threat. Gray ooze. And that's at 50 XP. Alright, so we got that, and then I just need to come up here. I forgot to do that for these things. 50 XP. Boom. It's just always helpful to have that there in case you need to math it out, because players only like kill one and capture another or whatever. You never really know what your players are going to come up with in terms of goofy things to do, so you just always try and have more information than you think is necessary, so that way you have more to draw on when they inevitably come up with something that you didn't even fathom that they would be able to do. So, alright, let's see here. So, I don't know, how do we describe this one? Okay, first off, because there's a shadow here, we do need to put in a little DM note here. How did we do it before? I know we had shadows showing up in one of our other battles. It's the Spore Servant, that's the boss battle. Boggle. Shadows, okay, here we go. We had them in here. Let's see here. When players enter, check passive perceptions. Those with 14 or higher will notice. Okay, yeah. That's how I want to do that. I want to do it just the same way. I want shadows to behave kind of the same way. So, players need key 1 to enter this room. Okay, when players will notice, it's just a single extra shadow, but we'll just say a single extra shadow against the far wall. If none notice, the shadow. Let's see, I just gotta change the tenses here so that they're proper. The shadow gets a surprise round to start combat. If anyone notices, have the ooze drop down immediately. Alright, yeah, so there we go. And now we can add our descriptive stuff here. So, as you enter this room, a cold chill runs down your spine. A heavy dripping noise catches your attention as what appears to be tepid gray water drips from the ceiling. Yeah, there we go. I like that. Falling from the ceiling. A large gray ooze plops onto the floor, beginning immediately to move towards you in its mindless, hungry way. Boom, we'll do that. And honestly, with the shadow will just show up, right? Like, unless they spot the shadow, unless they actually spot it, like, it won't be there until it's the shadow's turn to enter combat. So now in this room, though, we are going to have potions. So as the dust settles from the combat, you are able to take stock of the room around you. You see in the center a statue with a small collection of bottles and vials at its feet. Looking closely, these appear to be bottles filled with various potions. Let's see here. We'll say, and I'm going to put a DM note here, what I want to do with this. Is we'll say, labels are written in Dwarven. Only those who read Dwarven can read the labels. Otherwise, let's see. How do I want to describe this here? Otherwise, players will have to make a medicine check, DC 14, or just try the potions to know what the contents are. Alright, and so now we just need to come up with some potions that are in here. And I'm going to pull up, I'm going to take a minute here. I'm going to come in here and we're going to look at our magic items and see what kind of potions are available to us, because I never remember them off the top of my head. Magic items here. I'm going to go to potions. I never remember them off the top of my head, but I want them to be... I like trying to make them sort of thematic in a lot of ways to whatever the dungeon is going to be. So there's going to be 3 health potions. I always do that. So this is a level 4 one, so we're still just at 3 standard health potions. So 3x standard health potions. And then I always do 2, or well, I guess I shouldn't say always. Sometimes I'll mix it up. But generally I do 2 potions of some other type here. That's here. Potion of comprehension. Comprehend languages for a spell of 1 hour. See, so I like the idea of there being 1 potion of comprehension, since we're doing a lot of different languages in here. So I think that one could be a very good one. Giant strength. Potion of mind control. That's kind of an interesting one to do. Potion of mind control. Oh, these are supposed to be rare and very rare, so those are actually not ones that I would expect them to have. Let's see here. Let's see here. Yeah, I'm going to do... Okay, we're going to give them a potion of watchful rest, a potion of comprehension. Is that what it was called? Potion of... Yeah, potion of comprehension. Potion of climbing is interesting, but it doesn't really serve a purpose in this dungeon, so we'll do the potion of comprehension. And I'm also not above... I consider myself perfectly willing to accidentally create a broken magical item to homebrew another potion of some sort for players to fit the needs here. But for now, let's do 1 potion of comprehension, and then 1 potion of watchful rest. There we go. Perfect. Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually let's decorate this room here. We need another statue. Let's see here. What? I'm trying to remember which ones we've used here. We did use. I don't think we've used this one yet. Okay, why not? Let's use this one. This is a big room. Now that I'm looking at it, this is a sizable room. Alright, let's put that guy right there. And then I actually want to do... let's go back to all here, and let's do... Let me try potion, maybe? No, not potion. Vial? No. Bottle? Yeah, we got a few bottles here. Those are kind of big. I want to make them a bit smaller here. Let's make them about half that size. Perfect. And we'll just... So there's supposed to be 5 of them. So let's just go ahead. 3, 4, 5. There we go. We'll just set them up like that. Hey, Tejas, how's it going? It has been a bit. I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. Hopefully you're doing well as well. Glad to see you here. Okay, so we got bottles. That's our potions. Let's get ourselves... Oh, we can make this back to standard scale here. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. And now we'll just put our lights in this room. There we go. Put one right there. One right there and right there. One right there and there. And then just one more right there. Because every door has to have multiple torches around it. Everyone knows that in any sort of game dungeon, every door has to be aligned with multiple torches. That's just aesthetic common sense right there. You can't not do it. I mean, really. Let's see. We're gonna one-shot adventure for your stream community. Nice. Gonna get people introduced to D&D. Heck yeah. One-shots are awesome for that. The only reason I don't endeavor to make too many one-shots is because every time I try, they end up being way bigger than a one-shot. I'm so bad at making just a one-shot. I'm so bad at it. I get too wrapped up in trying to put story and complexity to it. I'm so bad at it. So I'm really glad there are people like you who are able and willing to do one-shots. So that way we have them for the community. Because they are not my wheelhouse. Know your strengths and play to them, right? So that's how I'm gonna justify it. All right, medium battle. Okay. Gotta see how many points of experience. 300 experience points. Do we have any medium battles? How have I set them up so far? I want to make sure I'm not repeating. Hard battle, don't care about that. Mini boss, we already took care of that one. Easy. Oh, we haven't done a single medium one. Okay, we got a couple. So we have to come up with 2 mediums. They're gonna be 300 experience points a pop. Oh, we can do 3 shadows. We can do 3 shadows or 6 oozes. Oh man, my players would hate 6 oozes. Let's see. 300 XP. I'm gonna do one or the other. Let's have this one be. Let's have this one be our 6 oozes, and then 3 shadows will guard the other one. I think that'll work. 6x, reduced strength, gray ooze, and those are all 50 XP a pop. Boom, there we go. Just playing for an hour because you know it'll take 2 or 4 times as long. Yeah, 100%. It's like for me, I have to like remind myself. It's like if you're making a one-shot, like 2 combat encounters, a puzzle, and a trap, and then 1 boss guy that like will talk and explain his grand plan as the players kill him and defeat him, and that right there is a one-shot. Like that's all you need for it, and it's like even that is half the size of the dungeons I usually like to create, and even that is really tough because I don't make campaigns with 1 dungeon. I don't do it that way. That's just not what I do. So it's such a challenge, which I mean means I should probably make myself do it more often because it'd be a good challenge for me, and it would probably make me a better writer and creator. But I don't want to, so I'm not going to. All right, so let's see here for this room. Players, players. There it is. Need key 1 to access this room. Access this room, and let's say let's do perception DC 12. I need to start specifying more often using passive perception, because I never use that, but that's such a convenient way. Like passive perception, the more I think about it, the more passive perception makes more sense than an active perception check, because as soon as you're starting to enter the realm of active perception, you're towing that line to just going straight into investigation. So I'm trying to be better about remembering to keep track of who's like what the passive perception of most people is, and use perception for more of things like if they're trying to peek into a room, what do they perceive as being around? You know, things like that when they're sort of doing something a bit more active rather than just walking into a room. Like when they just walk into a room, that's really the time for passive perception. So I'm trying to be better about that. That's here. I made a world. Only ran 1 5 session campaign. Like to have a campaign to run at some point in time. Yeah, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of the long form campaigns. Um, they're difficult because it can be hard to find a group that's dedicated enough to play regularly enough to actually get through a campaign in a reasonable amount of time. But when you do, that's definitely my preferred way to do it. It's just so much more fun. You can really delve into characters. People learn their characters, and it's like I've been seeing it with my players in my game. We've been going for just under. In fact, actually, this month we'll hit the year mark of playing. Um, so you know, and so we've been going for a year, and they've made the strides that they've made and how much better they are at playing their characters after having that consistent long form time frame to learn their characters and both in personality and in skills. It's so fun to watch. So I love long form campaigns, but they are definitely harder to find in for a lot of reasons, especially as an adult. Um, has percentage to be used overactive for sure. Having notes is handy. Yeah, yeah, 100%, 100%. It just makes more sense because the thing about too with active perception, one of the frustrating things about active perception is meta. Like as a meta, um, players will get an answer regardless of what they roll, right? Because if they roll poorly, and you say you don't see anything, that gives them a strong idea that, oh, there's still, like, at the very least, they know, oh, there's still possibly something here that I just didn't see. Like, it's possible that they, accidentally still correctly saw that there's nothing there. But if they roll poorly, they're not going to believe that. And so they still kind of have this idea that, oh, there could be something here. And it makes it so tempting for them to just, like, spam their perception and investigation. Whereas if I just have their perceptions, their passive perceptions handy, and know who does and doesn't meet the criteria for it, then I just know what to describe the room as. And then as soon as they're like, I'd like to look around the room and see if there's anything, boom, then we slip into investigation checks, and that changes the nature, right? That changes the nature. It's easier for players to accept that, oh, they didn't find anything on an investigation check because they know they're looking for something specific that they understand may not be there. Whereas perception is them just trying to soak in what's in the room. So it's like you give them, if they get a poor perception check, then it's like they just know that their character's not paying attention. Whereas if they have a poor investigation check, they can kind of be like an inspection thing, but for the most part, it's like they're kind of more like, oh yeah, I was looking for something very specific, and it might just not be there. So yeah, passive perception makes a lot more sense from a gameplay standpoint, but it's so much harder to remember because you don't have that trigger of a player saying, I would like to look for something, to remember that you should be taking that into account. So yeah, putting it in the notes here is a much better idea, and I need to not be afraid to just throw that in there. It's one of those things where it seems like it might be more information that's necessary for a DM in their own notes, but it definitely falls under the category of better to put way more information that you don't need, so that way you're reminded of those little things when you need them. Like more information is better than not enough information, as long as you're not like writing an entire book when you do that more information, right? There's time and place for that too, but no, it's definitely doing that type of stuff, going that above and beyond in terms of my own notes, definitely makes me a better DM, and I highly recommend it to anyone else. Like even if you're running a module, a pre-made module, read a page or two ahead for every given session so you know kind of where things are going. And like if you don't want to mark up your book, then have a notes piece of paper, or if you're comfortable marking up the book, write in the margins, put all kinds of notes and reminders and stuff, so that way you can see those. That's why I color coordinate all of these notes here, so that way I can see the little orange red stuff here and be like, oh, that's an important thing that I need to remember. I should read that before I read anything else out loud, so I know what stuff to do. So it's like this one. Players need key 1 to access the room. Passive perception DC 12 to notice the oozes, the oozes? The oozes on the walls and ceilings. Like, so, or yeah, walls and ceilings. So it's like having those notes there, suddenly I'll remember to have that there before I describe the oozes attacking them. So that way it's not like I'm just giving them that free stuff, and it adds that tension. It makes things more intense, and the first time players don't notice something that then attacks them, you know, then suddenly that creates tension throughout the rest of it, because they know that just because they don't see something doesn't mean it's not there. So, like, it's a really important precedent to set, and so this is all part of just getting us there. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Teus. Lurk all you want. I love my lurkers as much as I love my chatters. I love everyone. Well, not everyone, but you understand what I'm saying. You know what I mean. There are some people in the world that I probably don't love. I might like them a lot, but... Okay, let's see here. So, describing this one. First, entering this room gives you a sense, we'll say a sense of feeling dirty and slimy even before you touch anything. Some sort of slime covers the walls and ceiling of this room, much of it dripping to the floor. As you walk in, it rapidly becomes apparent to you that this isn't your run of the mill moss and mold, as the slime begins to congeal into discrete's not really the word, distinct is more what I'm looking for, distinct, to congeal into distinct piles that soon fall to the floor and begin working their way towards you. Boom. And then cue the Pokemon battle music. Okay, what's in this one? Enchantment token. Yes. Enchantment token. I love giving my players enchantment tokens. And, like, my players in my game, what's been really fun for me is the players in my game, they're starting to understand the possibilities and implications of finding these tokens. Because the way I do it to them, the way I provide it is, I give them the description of what the token looks like, but I don't tell them exactly what's on the token, like what spell is in there. And so it gives them the chance to sort of look at it and wonder, like, oh, what could this, what's in this? What kind of power does this thing have in it? And then it gives them something to be excited about getting back to the city and doing some research on, and then eventually trying to add to their weapons and stuff like that. Like, it gets them pretty stoked and excited about that. So I've been having a lot of fun with the enchantment tokens in it, you know, and it's really great too, because it's a system that I came up with. So when my players like it, it really strokes my ego, and it really makes me feel like I'm just like untouchable and really smart. So it's really nice. It really inflates my self-esteem to points that are a little narcissistic, and it's just wonderful. It's just wonderful. Hey Garfield, how's it going? Glad you came in right as I was talking about being an egomaniac. It's perfect timing. Okay, so we need to come up with an enchantment token for this one. So let's look at our spells here. Let's go through our spells. Let's just see what looks like it would be fun to give players as a possible spell to use. Let's see. I want this to be spell level 1 because it's a level 4 dungeon. So we'll filter those spells a little bit here. Excuse me. And let's see what we've got here. Something very dark, grim, gross, disgusting dungeon themed. I don't know. Let's see what we got. Cause Fear would be a fun one. Ceremonic Chaos Bolt. Lexian, yard sale, so everything is sold in the constant unit of measurement. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. Whatever you're saying, Valexian, is going straight over my head. I have no idea what you're talking about right now. That might just be me being really thick and dumb. It's not the first time that would have happened. Let's see here. Cure wounds, affect evil and good. Oh, joking about the title. Okay, gotcha. Yucky Yards yellowed yearly. My titles are always me doing my very best to use alliteration and a thesaurus to come up with funky ways of saying, like, creating like spooky dungeons. So like Yucky Yards is like a gross dungeon of some sort. Yellowed yearly is meant to be like aged over time. So it's like an ancient gross dungeon, which is what we're working on. So that's where the title comes from. It's a stretch, but there aren't many useful words that begin with Y in the English language. There are a lot of words, but useful is, eh. Let's see here. Detect good and evil would be kind of a good one. Ancient gross dungeon. Yep, exactly. I mean, that's what we're working on. It's a dungeon that's really gross and slimy. There's ooze everywhere. Ooze everywhere. Tangle, feather fall. I have gift of alacrity, philosophy, fog cloud. I don't know. I'm liking detect good and evil. That'd be kind of a fun one here, because this is an ancient dwarven tunnel that's now overrun with Duergar. So you know, good and evil. Like that would be kind of an interesting thing for them to try and be able to get a sense of all that kind of stuff. Hellish rebuke is kind of fitting. Hex hideous laughter. Ooh, that'd be a really good one. That'd be a really, really good one. Hideous laughter. Dungeon, my go-to game setting. Oh, but far from it. Far from it. In fact, this is the first like dungeon I made for this whole campaign, and we've created like 3 dungeons so far. So far from it. I get very creative with a lot of my stuff. I love mixing it up. I love doing all kinds of different things. But yeah, this is like the first actual dungeon that I've done. Tried a moldy sandwich that's gained sentience from said mold. I have not. I cannot say that I have, Alexian. That's a little more cartoony than the setting I'm going for. But I do like the creativity. I do really like the creativity there. I mean, it's like not a far-fetched. You could do that with an animated table and just do a haunted kitchen scene for a dungeon. That would actually be really fun. See, now there we were talking about, talking about one shots. That would be a one shot right there. You're just like the medieval Ghostbusters, and you have to handle like hauntings in someone's kitchen or something like that. Now there's an idea. There's an idea right there. I love Jim's magic missile. It's different from regular magic missiles. That one's Jim's. Hate dungeons. Stick to the 5. They have to stick to the 5-room dungeon design. So okay, so I guess I should then ask for clarification what you mean by dungeons, because in terms of dungeons, like I have a system that I follow for all of my dungeons, and I kind of like there are a lot of dungeons in terms of places that have maps with rooms for players to explore and figure out. But that's only one part of my campaign, and I use the setting very diversely. Like one of my dungeons is a giant village that players have to try and sneak their way around, like through the walls and stuff, because they're small compared to the giants. So it's like in terms of mechanics, it's a dungeon, but in terms of setting, it's definitely not. So I guess it kind of depends on what you mean by dungeon. I mean, it's hard to avoid having some sort of, like, if we're just using the term loosely to mean a location with traps and dangers for players to explore, it's hard to avoid having dungeons in D&D. I mean, it's right in the name. It's Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, come on now. But in terms of what that setting is, yeah, we can. There's way more creativity to have with all of that than just doing, a dungeon with like just a railroad room by room slog. So okay, so I mean. Okay, so maybe what I'm making isn't what's for you. This is one of 4 sets of rooms in this dungeon for players to go through. And in a lot of ways, it is a slog. but it includes having to search for keys. It includes a lot of puzzles, a lot of traps. It does include a lot of combats and having to go into rooms. But there's a lot of clues about what they'll find when they get to the end of this dungeon. And it's definitely not railroady either, because they can. I mean, there's a certain amount of railroading. Different keys will gain access to different rooms, so they have to go through all of that. So in a way, there is. So I might not be creating a game that's exactly to your tastes, but I'd like to think that it's a bit more diverse than just like go down the line one room to the next room, beat the challenge, and move on. Like there's a lot of complexity involved here. There's a lot of searching, a lot of non-combat based challenges for players to make their way through, and I think that's what makes a dungeon good. And at least for me and my players, they quite enjoy the way I design these things. So they at least have not found it to be so monotonous that they don't like it. So I like to think I'm doing something okay. But this might not be what you know. This that I'm creating might not be something that's up your that's really in your wheelhouse. But okay, let's see. What do you got here? An L-shaped rotating hallway, plus-shaped passage, pull lever to turn. I mean, yeah, like changing, having rooms and stuff like going the magic staircase from Harry Potter route to mix things up. That's definitely a usable thing. I haven't utilized it yet, but that's definitely an idea to keep in mind. Um, Different keys will gain access to different rooms. That's what the floors are made of. Tunnels under with mold earth. You're talking about in my dungeon. I mean, the floors. This is just like a stone cave dungeon. Is what we're doing in this one. Played TOA. Couldn't get out of that game fast enough. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has their different preferred games and approaches to it, and I think that's why it's so important for you to be clear with your players/DM to figure out what kind of game you want to be, because there are so many different ways to play D&D, that there are, within the scope of D&D, there are tons of different games and campaigns that different people will like and dislike. It's like saying you play D&D is such a broad statement. It's almost as broad as saying I play video games, right? That doesn't mean you're going to like every single video game that's out there. And it also doesn't mean that what you do or don't like in a video game makes it good or bad, right? It just means everyone's got their different preferences. So I think it's totally fair. I think it's totally fair for you to have different things that you do and don't like in dungeons. And that's why it comes down to, and why I'm always saying it every single time whenever people ask me advice and stuff. I'm always saying like, well, first and foremost, talk with your players and your DM. Because every game is going to be different, right? I run my games a certain way that my friends really enjoy that when I play with them, and is fun for me to create. But that doesn't mean that my stuff is going to be exactly what everyone else loves. So always be communicative with your group about it, so to make sure that everyone has a game experience that they enjoy. Use shape water to freeze it into a keyhole and making an improv key. You can certainly try to steal one of Matt Mercer's famous quips. You can certainly try. There are going to be a lot of factors about the success. First and foremost, making sure the ice is strong enough to properly turn a rusty key, which I would argue is unlikely, because you have that choke point of a thin, key going into there. And like if we're talking an ancient dungeon, this is a dungeon that's been abandoned for thousands of years. So those keys are going to be pretty rusty. The keyholes and everything are going to be pretty rusty. That said, I would leave it up to the dice, and I would say, okay, give me a sleight of hand check to see if you can do it delicately enough to open it, because the creativity, I think, is wonderful. I think the creativity of that idea is wonderful, and I would not be opposed to letting players kind of speed run their way through a dungeon like that, especially because the thing is there's so much. I hide so many treasures and clues about the campaign at large in my dungeons that if they want to go through all that stuff and kind of like hamstring later parts, then they can totally just do that. Plan C, just bust the lock by freezing it. I think that's a less viable option than most people think it is. I want you to get yourself some sort of like I want you to, even if it's rusty, I want you to get yourself some like liquid nitrogen, and I want you to spray a lock all over it, like spray a lock all over with it, And I want you to try and break that lock, and I want you to tell me how successful it truly is, because I think that that's a less viable option, because you might be able to break the locking mechanism. Can you break the deadbolt that's holding it in place? Is the real key, is the real question here, because breaking a lock is not the same as opening a door. So you got to be careful with that shit, because if you're going to try and get clever and break my puzzles and stuff for the sake of damaging the game, then boy oh boy, I'm going to try and break your ideas back. Take that. I'm God. This is my world. I'm sorry. I got a little power thirsty there. I got a little power hungry there. No, I like the creativity. I like that you're coming up with creativity. But I am also not afraid of using the same type of creativity to really get to the bottom of whether or not that would be functional or not. Yeah, used to movie logic. That'll get you every time. That'll get you every time. All right, let's see here. So getting back on track here. I'm sitting here doing a D&D writing stream, and I haven't hardly done any writing. Let's see here. What was the one? Detect good and evil. I like that one. We're gonna go ahead and say that the token is filled with detect good and is one that would allow for detect good and evil. So let's see here. Is the keyhole able to be looked through? I'll usually allow my players to try it, but the vision of doing such a thing is so limited that players are going to need to get a really high perception or investigation check to really glean anything other than like, yep, there's a room with some torches on the other side. Like that is such a narrow field of view. But I allow my players to try that kind of stuff for sure. Okay, let's see our enchantment token. Let's see here. In the palm of the statue that's in the center of this room is a small token. On one side of this token is etched a small image. Let's see. On one side of this token, a small image. I don't know what kind of picture would detect good and evil. I don't know. Like it will say an image. Let's see. Is an image that depicts a small pitchfork and a small set of angel wings. I don't know. Why not? Token is imbued with a detect good and with I want to say the spell detect good and evil. Boom, there we go. There's their enchantment token. Perfect. Let's see here. So Misty escape, Misty step. I hope there's an unlocking mechanism on the other side. Lexian, I have to say, you've got some serious creative chops on how to break into a room that's locked. 100%. You've got that on lock, man. You've got just about every idea that I've ever heard of to try and get past a locked door. Beyond just trying to find the damn key. You know, like that's the thing for me too. Like, and this is just something that my players have sort of learned. I don't lock a door without providing a key somewhere in the dungeon, and I do that for a very important reason, because every idea that you're coming up with to bypass this locked door, as far as I'm concerned as a DM, would require a check of some sort. And the DC for any of those is not going to be particularly easy for almost all of these. I mean, you can try and Misty Step your way through it and stuff like that, sure. So you can kind of come up with that. If my players started spamming that, I would probably start finding some way to stop them from doing that, because the first and foremost, too, is that if you do it too much, I think after a certain point you're just kind of bypassing the concept of the game in the first place. But all of them, but that you know, that's a debatable thing, 100%, just about the philosophy of what should be accomplished and what people should be doing when playing a game. So all of that aside, all of those require checks of some sort. And what I really don't want to do is lock players out of important or at least accessible and interesting parts of a dungeon um, because of bad rolls. So, and that's a lot of the reason why I'm willing to let them do those rolls, because I'll make the checks difficult. And the best part is if they don't succeed, then they will still be able to gain access to those areas through just going through the dungeon and finding a key. Like I make sure that every door is unlockable by a key that they can get from somewhere in the dungeon that's already accessible. So in this dungeon, for example, there's different keys that they have to get to unlock different rooms. And so the key to a room is not ever locked behind the lock that the key unlocks, if that makes sense. So there's always keys around. There's always keys around. And if there is one route that's blocked off, there is always another route to keep going through. I always do that for my dungeons. And so I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to that kind of stuff. You can definitely do that. Because the thing is like, if you're going to use up your spell slots and everything to do that stuff, like I don't care. You can definitely go through all that kind of stuff. So, like, you're more than welcome to do all that kind of stuff as far as I'm concerned. But my players have learned that I'm pretty fair about my dungeon designs, and that you can't accidentally lock yourself out of a room permanently through bad rolls. And like I say, it's because while I think it's great to creatively find ways to get past a locked door, I like that type of stuff to be saved for situations that require urgency, or situations that don't require just getting through the dungeon in the first place, right? So it's like things that might be locked without a key around are things like, hey, look, there's a treasure chest here, and there's something really cool in it, but it's not essential, and so there's no key to it maybe. So like if they're lucky, they can get access to something that's really powerful and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Like I say, you've got some creative ideas for getting through locks, and I think that's super impressive. But I just always like my dungeons. It's not about not wanting them to use that creativity. It's about wanting to make sure that they don't have to have that creativity and good luck on the rolls to get through. So there's always a key to pretty much every door in a dungeon that I make, and that's just my personal philosophy on creating dungeons. But I fully expect anti-teleportation fields eventually. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's the other thing about it too. It's like if players find a hack that can kind of just like get them through things really easily, well, of course I'm going to make them come up with other ways, because the thing is too is like it is a game, right? Like we all are sitting down to play a game, so we want challenges. At least if you're playing the game, you should want a challenge. So if you come up with a creative way, you should want your DM to be like, all right, well, we'll shut that down. Can you figure out this one? Can you find a way to do it this way? And all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times too, when something is locked, it's not with it's not locked in a way that needs a key. It's locked in a way that needs to, like, you need to solve a puzzle for it or something like that. And that kind of adds a lot of diversity in how one gets through the dungeons and sort of what there is to do in the dungeon, as well as just making sure that like the same methods to get through the dungeon and to bypass things can't be used every single time. It's all a part of, for me too, that's another one of my philosophies as a DM. I'm creating a game, and games are most fun when there's different things to do, right? Like no one likes a game where all you do is you just do fetch quests or whatever, right? People like there to be some other variety, some diversity in things, like that's what makes a game fun. We're playing. Like, why pretend it's anything different? We're sitting down intentionally playing a game with the intent of being challenged and having to come up with fun solutions and stuff like that. So it's like once they kind of come up with all kinds of tricky, clever solutions, it's like, all right, time to shut that one down and come up with another one. I'm not ashamed of doing that. It's like, it's not a matter of thinking that my players are cheating. It's a matter of recognizing, all right, they're clever enough to figure out that one. I got to come up with a new challenge for them to try and figure out. So, sonic screwdriver can unlock anything except wooden deadlocks. There are no sonic screwdrivers in my world, exactly because of that reason. Too OP. All right, let's see. We gotta decorate this room. We gotta decorate this room that has crap in it. Let's get ourselves some objects going here. We can get our torches in place. To do, 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 and to do. So do that, and then let's get our light tool here. So we just like do all this. I love how just dim and not bright these rooms are gonna be. Okay, what about Weeping Angels? What game do you think I'm writing for here, man? This is D&D. I'm not about to get myself in copyright issues by stealing from another franchise that does not have the same explicit homebrew friendly rules that Wizards of the Coast have for people. Alright, so we'll do that, and then so yeah, that works. That works. Just put a little statue right there. I don't know what that's supposed to be a statue of, but a statue. It looks like someone carrying something, right? Like I can't, because the things like on the bottom of that one that's in place there, like that's the head, and then their arm is going up, and they're like holding a barrel or something. So I think that's what it looks like. I don't know. It's pretty inconsequential, honestly. Doesn't really matter. So yeah, and we'll just say it's holding a coin. I don't know. It's all pretty inconsequential because we're just trying to create a room that looks kind of interesting. Alright, and then our last one here, we need to come up with another medium battle here. Medium difficulty battle. Oops, we want that underlined. Medium battle. This one is going to have about 300 XP, and I was going to put 3 shadows in this one. Underline that. Oh, that's going to be... The shadows are fun. The shadows are fun because there's no guarantee that players will be able to see these things when they first walk in. So let's see here. Players... when players enter, check passive perceptions. Those with 14 or higher. Notice a single... we'll notice, actually, this time it's going to be 3 extra shadows. Notice... let's see here. 3 extra shadows against the far wall. Chickens just made entirely out of... Oh. Oh boy. Oh boy. You're getting wild and crazy over there, man. Alright, let's see here. 14 or higher will notice 3 extra shadows against the far wall. Boom. And then we just kind of give them that. And then... There we go. Walk into this room. It feels almost eerily quiet and empty. Doors to the north, east. Oops, hold on. Okay, hold on a second. Let me reset. North, east, and west can be seen. Let's see here. I don't know. That sounds weird. Doors to the north. What am I trying to say here? Doors to the northeast and west. Stand resolute in the silent darkness of the dungeon around you. Boom, there we go. Alright, I mean, that's like, honestly, that's all we need to do. Like, that's all we need to do for the description of this one, because all that's in here are these shadows that will then just, like, attack them when they get too close. Or if they notice the shadows and are like, wait a minute, hold on, there's too many shadows here. I count 4 of us, but 7 shadows. Who brought an extra shadow? Who did that? Alright, and then an empty room, because not every room gets to have some sort of reward. Sometimes there's just not anything to find in the room. Let's see here. Searching high and low, you see nothing of value in this room. However, the door to the double check. Yeah, door to the east. So yeah, the door to the east of this room. Let's say door to the east of this room leads to a dark tunnel that seems to be longer than the rest you've seen so far. We'll do that, and that's just like a hint to them that, like, hey, this one goes somewhere other than just the next room in this little area here. So we got that, and then let's get our objects and stuff. Little statue. Yeah, why not? Why not a big giant lion or something? I don't know. Whatever. Doesn't really matter. I'm just doing all kinds of different statues because that's kind of one of the themes of this dungeon, is that each room has a different statue in it. The idea being that, at least within the lore of this area, because this was meant to be a cave tunnel system that the dwarves set up to confuse, trap, and be able to combat invaders into the city, right? Each room has a different statue, so that way it's like those who are friendly, you know, can use the different statues for guidance to get through the tunnels. So it's like people that know how to get through can use the statues in case they get lost or whatever, and they can use those to get back. But then someone who doesn't know what's going on will see the statues and probably not think to pay attention until it's too late. It's not a thing that actually has much function in the game because, like I say, players will have this sort of top-down view of everything, right? They'll have this top-down view of it all, so they'll be able to know what room is what pretty easily. But that's the idea behind having all these different statues. Like, the statues are directional. The statues are there for players to be able to navigate and make it through, you know, this area with at least a little bit of assistance. But sweet, that means we are finished up with this first level of this dungeon, and I'm looking at it, and it is like, this is a very monotonous, repetitive dungeon, but it's very intentional. It's very intentional. The whole theme of this dungeon is that it was created as a maze, as a sort of trap system to make sure that invaders couldn't easily make it to the dwarven city that the players are trying to get to. And so I want them to feel like, holy crap, this is oppressive. We're just in the dark for so long, you know. And it's like, the idea is that it would take their characters days to get through this, and that's the whole point. Like, that's why the dwarves made it this way. So I actually am really happy that this one's monotonous, because we haven't done that yet. We haven't done this sort of repetitive. We haven't made a dungeon that's like repetitive to this degree. So as long as you don't do it for all of them, it actually can serve a purpose, and I'm quite pleased with it. So, excellent. We got our first section done. We got 3 sections left to go here. Got the one over there, up there, and then over there. With things that'll have increasingly difficult battles, but you know, the flip side, increasingly valuable rewards, and all that kind of stuff. Increasingly telling clues about what they're about to find at the end of this dungeon too. This is gonna be good. I'm pleased with this dungeon. I'm really happy with the progress of it so far. But the other good thing here is the timing works out. It's a little early. It's 1:22. Stream usually ends at 1:30, but I'm gonna go ahead, and because this is a really good pause point, a really good break point, I'm gonna go ahead and call it a writing stream for today. And call it good here. So what's going to happen, for those unfamiliar, what's going to happen is I'm going to take like a 15-20 minute break, just rest my voice a little bit, get myself something, you know, refresh my beverages and stuff like that. And then I'll be back to do some video game streaming. I've been doing a run-through of Neverwinter Nights, one of the campaigns in Neverwinter Nights. There are a lot of campaigns. I think we're just starting with one. We'll see if I want to do more. We'll see if I want to do more. If anyone else wants me to do more, we can think about that. But for now, we're going through one of the campaigns of Neverwinter Nights, which I'm having fun with. It's a very different feel of a very familiar world because it is a D&D game. So yeah, so that's coming up. Like I say, I'll take a break for like 15-20 minutes, come back, and we'll play that for a couple hours. So if you are interested in that, if you want to just like hang out and watch me game a little bit and just get a bit more D&D content, you can hang out for that. Or if you're really just here for the writing and you want to see other creative stuff in D&D, then by all means go on your merry way, find someone else, and I will be back tomorrow with more writing at the same time, Eastern Time Zone, 11:30 is when 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time Zone. I'll let you do the math on wherever you live to figure out what time that is for you to watch. But yeah, that's what's about to happen. So thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate everyone stopping by. A lot of creative people stopping by in the chat today. It made a lot of fun. Always have fun listening to you guys' wacky ideas that you come up with. For sure, I do my best to try and comprehend and understand them while I'm also trying to write here. I'm not super great at it, but hey, it's free content, so you get what you pay for. But no, seriously, thank you guys for stopping by. I appreciate you guys. If you want more stuff, like if you want to watch some more of my VODs, I do have a YouTube channel. If you like the discussion, I do have a Discord server. Feel free to get yourself signed up for that and joined in on that. I do my best to try and participate in that when I can. I have limited time, so I'm not great at it, but it's there. It's there. Those resources are there if they're interesting to you. Feel free to check those out. You can find links to both of those on my Twitch channel. I think that's all of the self-centered plugs that I've got for today. So yeah, just again, thank you so much to everyone who stopped by. Come back in 15-20 minutes. I'll be here doing a bit more. Well, not a bit more, anything. Doing some video gaming, and I'm stoked about it. I've been having fun with Neverwinter Nights, so it'll be fun to play that. So hopefully I will see you in a few minutes, or I will see you tomorrow. Either way, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for stopping by, and yeah, take care of yourselves. All right, I'll be back soon.